Hey everyone, Liam here, one half of Breaking Bread, the Birmingham-based food podcast that is usually presented by me and my food-obsessed brother from another mother, Carl. So during these special kind of lockdown episodes, it's just me. Carl's still flat out working, so yeah, it's just me. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone's well, keeping safe. Big thank you to anyone who listened to the last episode with Lewis from Flock. They've just been working flat out on that the last week, so if you go on there now, there's even more stuff than when it was launched and when we done the podcast. There's loads of wines and beers and stuff on there. Really appreciate everyone who listened to that episode, and welcome back for this episode. It's brilliant, really. It's one that I've kind of wanted to do for a while, and unfortunately now seemed to be probably a good time to do it. It's with Mark and Alan from NCASS, which is the National Caterers Association. Basically a really great organisation that are just doing amazing things for the kind of mobile traders. And well, it's not just, as you'll hear in the podcast, it's not just for mobile traders. They have a few restaurant owners as members as well. If you go onto their website, you'll see they offer like lots of practical courses, help with like due diligence and help with EHO, and basically just some great advice on how to get started, really. This podcast came about with the help from Joe Green from The Relationship, so a massive thank you to Joe for sorting this out for us. A lot of the mobile traders and a lot of the members of NCASS have found themselves they've kind of slipped the net a little bit, if you like, for a lot of the government grants and a lot of the kind of relief packages. They're just not suitable for a lot of their members. So instead of sitting back, I think they've felt the responsibility of having to kind of lobby, support for, and go to the government and see if there is anything they can get for their members. And on top of that, then they're kind of advising, they're giving out great advice as a pack, which if you haven't downloaded yet, I really suggest you go and have a look at it, because it's just full of great information and ideas for if maybe there is something you can do. You don't have to be just sitting at home. Obviously, if you feel like that's the best thing you can be doing and that is the only thing you can be doing, that's fair enough. But there's a lot of the street food traders have been doing great things, really. I mean, obviously we speak quite a bit about OPM in the episode. OPM's down in Sturchley, and you can get delivery from their restaurant in Digbeth as well, so that's one of the cool. We hear about Disco Fries, who are doing amazing things. A lot of the traders are helping out with the NHS charity meals for the NHS. So yeah, basically I just wanted to have a chat with the lads, and we do get into a little bit about street food. Obviously this isn't normal times, so it's not really a normal episode, so we don't really go down the whole we don't get as deep as I'd normally like to about street food and the history of NCASS. If you're listening to this, and hopefully you'll hear how helpful NCASS could be to your business. If maybe you're thinking about starting up, maybe you've lost your job in all the madness and you've always had that dream of going and starting your own food business. Food's always been a secret passion of yours, but you've had a decent job and you've always found reasons not to go ahead and pursue that passion. Well, now might be a good time to do that. And if you are thinking about doing that, even before you do anything else, I would strongly recommend you, even if you don't join NCASS, at least get on their website and have a little mooch around, because it's jam-packed full of everything you need to know, all kinds of information that will help you out. And as the lads say in the episode, they've had beers with most of the big names in the Birmingham street food scene. Just a really, really good episode. As I said, some great advice for any traders who are wondering what they could be doing, or obviously I'm pretty sure you would have went straight to Alan or Mark or NCASS yourself, but maybe this spurs you on to go and do something about it. Or as I said, you're thinking of a change of career, maybe this kind of wets your whistle, gets you excited about doing it again, and maybe it gets you to take that first step of going and taking your idea to NCASS and having a little read on what you need to do to make it into a reality. Obviously, if you do enjoy this episode, as with all episodes, we'd really appreciate it if you could just give us a nice little 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, not just because we're vain, but because it really does help more people to hear the podcast. Apple's just like every other Facebook and Instagram, all them algorithms. It has one on the Apple charts as well. So, I mean, the more comments and reviews and ratings we get, then the more discoverable the podcast becomes. So it would be a massive help if you could just go and do that for us. And or even if you're not listening to it on Apple, go and just tell a friend, tell someone about it, or maybe you know someone who's been wanting to start their own little street food business or food business and never got round to it. This might help them. So yeah, hope you all enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark and Alan. Probably not go too negative, and I like, because I listened to your both of your live broadcasts on Facebook, your webinars, and I kind of liked how like the first one was long, obviously, and you kind of finished with saying like, oh, we do want to get into some of the success stories, and Joe was saying earlier that there is some case studies that she sent over, and so there is good things happening as well. It's not all doom and gloom. So
there's loads of good things happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I really see this as, I mean, we can sort of get into it a bit more when we get started, but unless we already have started. I see it as like a complete reset. There's a really good webinar called Beanstalk, I think. I can send you the link on it. And it's really industry focused. It's about fresh food and basically farmers and growing stuff in England, and then sort of bringing in the global picture. But I really like those things. They're like super nerdy, but you get really honest opinions. And I got asked to do one a couple of weeks ago, and everyone on there it was kind of just after COVID had hit. And everyone was trying to say, that we think there's kind of a reset here. Nothing, like, how can anything go back to how it was before? This experience will change people. And so this is just like,
shouldn't you be saving this for the podcast, Mark?
Oh, I can, I I'll talk all day.
But, I am recording anyway. I always record from the beginning just
in case. But I mean, I just think it's like that. It'd be interesting to talk about that. I think maybe. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that.
If you just introduce yourselves really and tell us how you kind of got involved with NCASS. Mark, do you want to go first? I think you'll be quicker.
I might be. It all started when I met Al at a festival actually about 15 years ago. But I ended up. I basically used to go to loads of music festivals and raves, and I loved food. And I ended up becoming really good mates with Al, and we shared a love of festivals and food. And yeah, over time, I guess I kind of, I wanted to change from what I was doing. So I gave Alice, we ended up going to a Prodigy gig, and then we got really drunk. And afterwards, I was just like, Al, give me a job, give me a job, give me a job. And, I didn't even know what he did really, but I was like, give me a job, you run a company, give me a job. And then we ended up having this really weird chat. And then a couple of days later, we chatted about this energy. I was working in energy at the time. I was telling him about that. And a couple of days later, an energy company contacted NCASS, and they phoned me and said, does this sound like it's reasonable? I was kind of, chatted to them about that. And they said, well, if you come and do the deal, we'll think about giving you the job. So up I came to Birmingham and started at NCASS. So I guess that's the short version of it.
Alan, obviously things were a little bit different for you. Did you have much choice in joining NCASS, or?
I had a choice in the sense of, Dad wasn't forcing me to join, but at the time I was a bit, I was a bit stuck really. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was just actually come out of my friend, one of my best friends, who was actually recently last year my best man. He was operating a Subway store in Selly Oak, which is actually one of the first Subway stores, I think, in Birmingham. I think it was. And so I was helping him manage that.
Repping.
Yeah, that sort of that came to an end, and then I was a little bit stuck as to what to do. So back then, Dad was sort of running NCASS on his own in a garage. So sort of said, "Do you want to come and give me a hand?" And I did, and we sort of did that for together. We did that for about probably about 12 months before I gave Mark a call, like he was just sort of talking about, and then sort of said, "Mark, why don't you come and join us in Birmingham?" And then literally Mark packed his bags, moved up to Birmingham. I think within about a week, I was living in my house with my girlfriend, who is now my wife. Lived with us for about 6 months, Mark, something like that.
Yeah, pretty much on their sofa.
Yeah,
With a toddler running around.
yeah,
I couldn't handle it at all.
yeah.
I used to duvet in the car to work. So I was so cold. I couldn't believe how cold Birmingham was. I think it was like the coldest winter we've had since as well. Like, it's never been that cold since. But like, I was literally like, where have I moved to? This is the coldest place on earth.
So how did NCASS start, Alan?
So NCASS started originally. It was actually back in the 80s. It was originally set up by a group of mobile caterers that clubbed together, and basically, it's a very different scene back in the 80s, as you can imagine. But it's a group of mobile caterers, I think predominantly around the Midlands, actually, that sort of clubbed together and said, right, if we sort of join forces a little bit here, we can probably get a little bit more done. So sort of joined up as a collective, which was then set up as the Mobile and Outside Caterers Association. And then Dad got involved because Dad got involved because he was running a business at the time. And this was, I'm going now, skipping forward to the sort of mid 90s. And his business went under, and Mum and Dad needed something to do. And there was literally a neighbour that had a catering trailer that said, "Well, I've got this catering trailer going spare. Why don't you use it?" And so Mum and Dad did that because they were on the dole. And they took this catering trailer, took it to Cranmore Industrial Estate in Solihull.
We should point out that they'd stopped playing the dole when they went out trading.
Absolutely, yep. 100%. Yeah, 100%. And so they started mobile catering and started on this pitch on Cranmore Industrial Estate, and were selling. I started off selling, typical sort of wares, but then sort of thought, okay, there was other catering trailers in the area. As always in our game, it's certainly on pitch trading, the competition could be pretty fierce. So they thought, right, well, how are we going to sort of stand out here? So went along to the butchers and just sort of did you call a deal, started picking up sort of a bit more high quality sort of sausage and bacon, and started to make a bit of a name for themselves doing that. And then started getting into the world of events and started doing well. And then Dad got invited into Mocha, and then Mocha it slowly sort of became to disband a little bit. So Dad saw an opportunity there. Dad is Bob, by the way. And then took that over, which was mid to late 90s, and then into 2003, I think it was. I really should have done my research beforehand or spoke to my dad, but 2003. It then got rebranded as NCASS, and then I joined a couple of years later, 2005. And back then we only had about 500 members strong back then, and we were trading out of a garage. It was me and Dad for that year or so, and then Mark came along, and it was the three of us literally working out of Dad's garage.
How many members have you got now?
So we're up to over 6,000 now. So we've come a bit of a long way.
Yeah, that's a fair amount of traders.
It's been quite a journey, but I think there's been a couple of different phases in mobile catering over the years. And when Mocha would have started, it would have been your people on ice cream rounds and people doing burger vans on the side of the road and those kinds of things. And the events industry wasn't that big back then, or the festival industry wasn't that big. And then the 90s happened, and all the raves got pushed into being legal and being licensed. And so you had this, all of a sudden, festivals weren't for hippies, they were for everyone, or for a bigger portion of the population, and they kind of really took off. So yeah, in Glastonbury went from 10,000 people to nearly 200,000 people in sort of 10 years. So the festival industry taking off really gave a boost to mobile catering in terms of how many people were doing it, and also the type of people doing it changed, I guess, or was added to by more diverse mix of people. And then obviously the last 10 or so years, street foods has happened. So that's just been incredible in terms of the number of people getting involved and the dishes they're doing, and the events that are going ahead, and the quality and the fun that's out there with it, or was before this pandemic. Um, so I think there's been two big sort of changes in mobile catering in that time, that have kind of been a big boost. I don't think it's not me and Alan Bob that went out and convinced 6,000 people to hand over their money. It's the fact that the industry was growing and we were supporting it to grow. And
Is it
with help.
is it just
Go on, sorry.
sorry, Mark? Is it still just mobile traders you cover? Is there has it changed a bit? Is there some restaurants or anything
Yeah,
involved?
we have quite a few restaurants. A lot of our really successful mobile caterers end up getting restaurants or getting fixed site premises. It can make sense because then you've got a prep kitchen. You can sort of double up and you can hedge your bets. And also, it can be pretty brutal being a mobile caterer. The weather's not always great. It can be quite high risk. There are all kinds of problems like staffing and various other issues. So, yeah, I think that we get a lot of people that will grow into a restaurant, so Baked in Brick or Meat Shack or OPM, three local examples. There's loads more. And they they sort of grew into it with us, and then they've stayed with us. And then we have those that more recently have come to us for various different reasons. I guess that we've been more open to independent food businesses in general, and we kind of align with their viewpoints and their world views, and we provide hopefully a very good and very very valuable service.
Yeah, I think on top of that as well, like I mean, we're approximately 20% of our customers are of what we call fixed sites, compared to the mobile guys. I think ultimately, because of the services that we offer and the benefits that we're looking to provide, I think ultimately, if you cook and sell food, then those benefits, they suit, and there's not a great deal of difference really, other than the fact that some guys have the ability to move around, and some guys have the ability to stay where they are and wait for people to come to them. But if you're cooking and selling food, then your needs as a business are ultimately very, very similar. And so therefore our services, certainly it's, work for both mobile and fixed sites. So yeah, about 80 to 20% approximately at the moment.
What services is it that you offer?
So that's the key question. So I mean, our mantra is to help our members stay safe, legal, and profitable. So we do that through the benefits that we provide through the membership offering. So ultimately, what we're looking to do is help you take care of your legal requirements. So that's mainly legal requirements are making sure that you've got the right training in place, making sure that you've got the right documentation. So that's known as due diligence predominantly. You've also got to have liability insurance, which we've got to deal with a broker, which we can help you arrange. But in terms of the benefits, yeah, so training, documents, help with insurance. We also send out work opportunities. So Mark does a lot of work working with event organisers, or certainly did up to the last 6 weeks anyway.
We're still talking.
Yeah, yeah, this is,
It's not
yeah,
about when the festival is going to happen.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, we send out work opportunities, which is where we've got a service called Connect, where event organisers can come to us and say what traders they need and for what, and then we'll send out that relevant job to the relevant caterers that tick those boxes that they need. So pretty much based upon what food they want, etc. And on top of that, there's plenty of other stuff as well. Like we've got some, in line with the trying to help our members stay profitable, we've got cashback deals in place. So we've got deals with the likes of Booker, so that members that do shop with Booker can earn cash back there through NCASS membership. Also deals with Cala as well. So a lot of our guys use a lot of LPG. So that's pretty beneficial. And then we're looking to introduce more. We've got one with BioPack, so that's all on sustainable packaging. So we're trying to help our members sort of, pretty much with everything really. The most important thing as well, which I've totally missed out, is I think most of the key benefit is the advice and support that we offer, and the guidance that we provide. Every member gets a dedicated account manager assigned to them, and they can tap into that advice and support whenever they need to, really. So
Yeah.
look to
Yeah,
try
and
and
you've
be,
got someone to fight your corner when there's a pandemic going on.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that what we try and do is, we try and distill really complicated legal jargon into something that food businesses can achieve. So safe food, safe business practices, complying with all of their legal requirements, whether that's employment or food law, and everything in between. So all of our all of the work that we put out in terms of training, risk assessments, codes of practice, things like that, is all written and audited by food safety experts, and it's got primary authority status. So it means it's audited by, in our case, two separate local authorities, to make sure that it's absolutely bang on. It's good advice that will help a food business. So it's more about, there's so many different things you have to comply with across so many different fields, from health and safety, food safety, fire, and then various other different things, even down to whether you can put oil down your drains, that we kind of
you can't.
out
So you
and
can't.
put it all into something that's easy to understand and to manage and to deliver safely. So we try to make life easy, take all the boring stuff, and make it easy, and take it off your hands.
Yeah, exactly that, Liam. Like we try and act as a one-stop shop for an independent catering business. Our job is to give you the tools that you need to help you run your business, really, so that you can just go out there and do what excites you as a trader, which is to cook and sell food. And in doing that, put a smile on people's faces. We're there to take care of and to help you, guide you through all the other bits and pieces that you don't want to be thinking about, but you have to think about.
I mean, I think that we've got to do it in a way that makes sense to everyone, and makes sense of it. So it gives them a reason why they're doing it. You've got to keep this clean for this reason. This is what will happen
Yeah.
if you don't, and treat everyone like adults, but also make it very easy to understand, and to implement, because we have people from every corner of the world in our membership. We have, you don't necessarily get into cooking burgers because you love academia, and you love reading books and stuff. It's some of our guys are very practical, and they just want to get out there and create and be productive, and they don't want to be sat in front of a computer or sat reading pages of books and things like that. So we've got to make it accessible for them, so in their busy lives they can sort of take it on board and deliver it when they work.
That's cool. So it's fair to say, if anyone's even thinking about starting up their own street food or catering business, then signing up to NCASS would be a really good idea to do. Obviously, you're biased and you can say, yeah.
Yeah, we're biased. We can't really comment. I mean, I would. I definitely would.
I definitely would too, yeah.
Give us a call, and we'll have a chat with you, and hopefully you'll think it's worth it. And if we don't think it's worth you joining, we'll probably tell you. And if we do, then we'll tell you that too. So we're pretty upfront with people. We
Yeah.
succeed, and we don't want to encourage people to do things they can't do, or vice versa. So if you're thinking about getting into catering, check us out online, or give us a call. We'll chat about it. We won't hard sell anything to you. Just
Ultimately, sorry, Mark. Ultimately, we exist to help caterers. That's what we do. That's from the first day that I started at NCASS. Honestly, from the first day, what I found so rewarding about the job was just when you pick up the phone to someone that's got an idea, and they're like, right, and maybe they're in a bit of a mess in their lives. They've just lost their job, or maybe they're just looking to do something different, or maybe it's an idea that they've thought about and they've never actually really explored, or had the conviction to carry through, and they call us because they've Googled us or they found us and they come across us. And then having that chance to be able to talk to someone about their idea, and about this new venture in their career or their life, and having the experience and the knowledge to be able to help them and guide them through it and tell them, or whether or not it's talking about the legal requirements and what they need to do, like we talked about, or whether or not they're sort of bouncing an idea off us. And throughout the years, me and Mark have heard it all. Trust me, we have heard it all. Some of them absolutely brilliant, and some of them have gone on to be huge businesses. Some of the ideas have been absolutely terrible, and we've had to literally say, that's a terrible idea, please don't do that. There's no way that we can literally go to sleep tonight if we take your money.
Yeah, we can't take your money. That's a terrible
with
idea.
that
Please
idea.
stop spending money and go back to your job.
But the point of it is that what's so rewarding about it is the fact that people are able to share these ideas with you and be able to talk to you about your business, and just ultimately being able to help them and being able to guide them through that process. And that in itself is what makes the job so great. And that's what now that we've sort of scaled, now that we're up to 6,000 members, we've, instead of me and Mark being the account managers, we've got a team of, well, before this all started, we had a bigger team, but we've got a team of account managers.
We still do. They just felt like
still doing it. They're still.
Sorry, guys, you've still got your jobs if you're listening.
No,
This has been a bad way to find out.
That could go really wrong.
What I mean is just, unfortunately, we've had to furlough staff like many businesses have whilst this crisis is just going on until this blows over. But those account managers are, really, I like to think that they get, and I know they do because they tell me, and that they get exactly the same sense of reward from the fact that you are literally helping people. There's something really, really, strong and great.
Yeah. I'm still, like, I could give you a list of people that I'm proud of, like, literally giving one silly little bit of advice to, just for being there at that moment when they asked that question, that have gone and done amazing things. I did a talk at UCB, and this girl came up to me afterwards, and she's like, she's really timid, and she was like, can I just ask you a question? And you're gonna think it's a stupid idea. And like, just tell me, just go away if it's rubbish. I was like, just tell me the idea. And she said, I want to sell posh porridge, and at Digwood Dining Club. And I said, well, it won't work at Digwood Dining Club, but that is an absolutely brilliant idea. And she's now, her business is Morridge. She was in the process of opening a cafe. I don't know if she managed to get it open before the lockdown, but she has a porridge unit, a trike. I think it's Great Western Arcade, usually. And she had an absolutely fantastic idea. She was she's a chef, a trained chef. She's fantastic in the kitchen. She can do pretty much anything. But she just had this idea of just doing something really simple and lovely and affordable, but that could be made into anything you wanted it to be with a bit of creativity. But what she hadn't thought about was, my market is actually office workers at 8 a.m. It's not people pre-club or post work at Digwood Dining Club. They want something a bit different. And it was just, she thought it was a bad idea, but in somewhere she wanted to work, it turned out it was a great idea, but she just needed to tweak where she was going to do it. And it was just a conversation, and she's done all of the work. But I feel very proud that she's gone on to achieve so much. And every so often I run into her, I have a chat with her, and she's loving life, or she was before. I haven't spoken to her since the pandemic, but I think there's loads of people like that, and I think it almost used to be if you're going to succeed in street food, one idea was to take me and Al for a pint before you got started, because we went for beers with pretty much like OPM.
Can I just say at that point, that's exactly what Tommy from OPM did. I remember the day that Tommy from Original Patty Men called me up. I was like, "You're right, Tom," and he was working at Fashion at the time, and he's like, "Yeah, I was going to do a Scottish accent, but I'm not going to try it." And
don't do that.
need a change in career. I was like, okay, what are you thinking of doing? He's like, "Oh, I'm thinking of selling burgers." And we went out for a pint at the Prince of Wales in Moseley that day, and we talked about it. And like literally within about, and this obviously I'm not taking any credit whatsoever, but within about 6 weeks, the guy was, or not too much long after, was up and running. And look at those guys now. They're literally an institute in Birmingham.
People have raw ideas and they can be absolutely brilliant. They just need a little bit of tweaking, but they also need to know that it's a good idea.
That's what we're there for. We're just there to help support people, tell them what they can and can't be doing, and hopefully be able to give some some tips as to and some share some ideas as to maybe the right way to go about things. And like I said, I think
things to consider.
It's the whole point of that is it's really great to see. It's really great to be a part of that, and it's really really rewarding essentially.
It's nice. You kind of get to share in on their success a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah,
We've
definitely.
kind of alluded to a couple of times, and like the reason we're not sitting face to face and recording like we usually do is obviously this COVID-19 nightmare thing.
Yeah.
What's the mood in the camp with all the members? How is it?
It's not pretty, to be honest, buddy. There's a huge amount of worry and concern, and to be honest, quite frankly, distress. From a lot of people that are really, really, just crapping themselves, and understandably so. They don't know.
I think this is really bad timing for me because Ben from Little Blackwood just turned up with a grocery delivery and some wine when you said,
Ben the legend.
and I was like, "Oh, turning out to be pretty good." So, but yeah, the COVID thing's a nightmare. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, there's just a lot of people that are really understandably unsure as to what they should be doing, what they can be doing, what financial support they can access, whether or not they can trade.
It's
Yeah,
decimated the whole
there's no
sector.
beating around the bush. The question was, how has it affected our members? It goes well and beyond that. COVID has absolutely devastated the whole hospitality sector, the whole hospitality industry. Sorry, it's just it's been
It's been brutal.
massively impactful. It's been brutal. Exactly, Mark. Yeah, so there's a lot of really, really, really upset and worried people out there.
We work with festival caterers who've all basically poured all of their savings into pitch fees for events that now won't take place. Will they get that money back? There's no guarantees. We've got and where will they earn a living from? We've got street food events, mass gatherings are banned. And we've got and unlike restaurants, we haven't got any grants. We didn't get the self-employed support was pretty well. We just missed the net on that one. And then yeah, I mean, in terms of where is the industry at? I mean, it's on its knees. It doesn't exist. There's no
Yeah.
money in any restaurants, apart from what's been pumped in by the government. So in terms of, how's the mood in the camp, it kind of depends on the individual
Yeah.
concern. But I mean, I think that it's been shock and fear. But I think now it's kind of people are kind of looking at it going, okay, how do we work with this? How do we work through it? How do we, what does the future hold? And can we influence our own destinies on this? But I think it's going to have massive, massive impact for a significant amount of time on the hospitality and the events industry. I think the restaurant industry is in trouble if they can't sort out, rents and also VAT when that comes around in early 2021. I think a lot of businesses will voluntarily close. They might reappear again very quickly. But I think a lot of restaurants could close. In terms of our sector, um, the fact that we somehow managed to miss all of the safety nets that were offered, and there were some pretty big and generous safety nets offered by the government, um, it's kind of galvanized people and made them feel a bit like the underdog, a bit like they've been forgotten or like they've been overlooked. So we've kind of got something to fight for.
Sorry, Matt. In what sense do you say they were a mistake? Would a lot of the traders
Well,
be self-employed, but probably
so
didn't start?
yeah.
Don't have like 2 years worth of accounts and stuff.
Well, I mean, when I spoke to the business minister 2 weeks ago about this very issue, and I said there isn't an accountant in this country that wouldn't advise a self-employed person to pay themselves 10 grand in wages and the rest in dividends. If an accountant didn't advise you to do that, if you're self-employed, they probably need sacking. Um,
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
how can the government not accept dividends? Maybe up to a certain point, but not accept dividends as part of people's earnings. That's a perfectly well used scheme and has been around forever. So that's the self-employed thing. So a lot of people are looking at it and going, "Oh, well, they've been pocketing money and not telling the Batman." But actually, there are reasons such as the one that you said. People haven't got the accounts, or they can do 3 months trading, but it's the three quietest months. So compared to what's happened before, what they expect in the summer. But yeah, it's also down to the fact that just the way that it's been set up prevents a lot of people who thought they should be covered from actually getting anything from it. So we've got a lot of people, a lot of customers who are earning less than their staff at the moment, their furloughed staff.
You mentioned the dividend.
So I mean,
Is
I
there
think
anything else that you
I think
could?
there's a couple of big. So a lot of the guys that have gone into restaurants are subletting, and so they're paying the business rates as part of their rent, and that's going to the landlord, who's then passing that on in their rates. But that means that they're not on the rates register, so they're not paying rates. So they are paying rates, but they're not eligible for the cash that other restaurants have had. A lot of our guys are finding that um, it has to be a retail hospitality business. So if you've got a lockup with 10 catering trailers and a prep kitchen and a storage area and some office area in it, that's not considered a hospitality business, according to the definition of some local authorities. So yeah, loads of people thought that they were getting grants, didn't. And if you're a mobile caterer, if you're a gazebo trader and you keep your stuff in a lockup when you're not trading, or quite often they're kept in lockups by the markets or kept at home, you have no business premises, you are paying no business rates, and therefore no one in the very few people in the street food industry or the events catering industry would have got anything like any grants at all. So while hospitality has, restaurants and takeaways have got money, furlough money, rate and business rate suspensions and VAT suspensions and all kinds of things. We've got nowhere to trade. We've got no money. Um, yeah, and and we can't get any. So we've had to hustle new ways for our guys to get out and trade. So that's currently what the mood in the camp is at NCASS, and amongst many of our customers, it's we're a hardy bunch, and we're not going to let this take us down. We're going to hustle, and we're going to argue, and we're going to shout, and we're going to demand the right to trade, even if we don't get money. We want to be able to get out there and work, and do what we do best, which is feed people.
So are you actually an NCAS lobbying, like going out and actually doing something
But we're not
about it?
going out, but we are definitely.
Oh, so yeah, sorry, yeah, bad
Yeah,
term
we
of
do a lot of
phrase.
lobbying from home, and yeah, we speak through the primary authority arrangement we have. That's run by the Department of Business, so we have strong links into the Department of Business, and obviously we have strong links into the Food Standards Agency and certain other departments. So we can talk to senior civil servants. We can get the ear of ministers from time to time, and they are very aware of the problems we face. And I think that we're trying to be. We're not criticising the government at all at the moment, because we think they're trying, and that this is an unprecedented event, and trying to uh, fill up a bucket and then fill all the holes in at the same time is pretty tricky. And they've had a couple of weeks to save the economy, and I think that there are things that they just overlooked. Which
Yeah,
is
I think it's also important to say as well, Mark, that there have been some members have been able to access quite well. We've done surveys based upon this. We've done surveys out to members to find out who's accessible for the measures that have been introduced, etc. And there are a lot of people, not a majority, but there are a lot of people that have been able to access some form of support. In particular, the one issue which Mark sort of talked about there, which has been which is the grants for those that pay business rates based upon their premises. There's a lot of our guys that slip the net on that. Although it is certainly worth mentioning that Wales last week introduced something called the Economic Resilience Fund, which does go sort of sidestep that issue of the business rates, and does enable businesses, so those members that are in Wales, do have access to grants now, as long as they're above the VAT threshold of 85k.
Yeah, they're registered.
Yeah, and I want to point out as well that there has been a tool that's been introduced today on the government website. I think it was today, in terms of, for those people that are still confused out there or still are unsure as to what they do qualify and not. There is now a tool on the government website, which basically is an online questionnaire, which essentially you fill out and it will tell you there and then.
So say no.
Yeah, it might well do.
I trialed it
But
earlier. It said no to us, by the way.
The point is, for me though, is that there still is a large majority of members that still have slipped the net, and that has been a real focus for us in terms of our work and our efforts and our lobbying in terms of government. Because, like Mark said, it's obviously incredibly complicated what they're trying to do and what they've done so far, and hats off to the government for what they have done so far. But we're essentially pointing out where people have slipped the net. And sort of saying, look, we can't just let these guys just fall by the wayside. It's just not fair. So that's where we are really.
Yeah, but the government, they are definitely listening. I think that we are, fingers crossed. We're hoping for some good news very soon. But until it happens, we don't know. But they're definitely listening to us and giving us the impression they understand and that they care. So I'm not so worried about that at the moment. I think that if it takes too long, then businesses will go to the wall anyway, and the money won't be able to save them if it turns up in 2 or 3 or 4 weeks' time. But I think for us, it's a case of, if we can trade safely, then we would like to be able to go out and trade. It's actually quite tricky to get good food at the moment for a lot of people, and even if you've got money, I went on one of the apps the other day. I think Al did the same, and there was only 4 restaurants serving on Friday or Saturday night on one of these big, multinational apps. So there's obviously a lot of businesses not selling food, or they're not using the apps. But I think that a lot of these restaurants are shut for the time being. And if you don't want to cook your own dinner one night, maybe having 6,000 or 10,000 mobile caterers available for takeaway or delivery could fill some of that gap. So my focus is, can we get out trading? And as long as we ensure everyone does it completely safely, I don't see why we can't be out working at public car parks or from an industrial estate, private land, that kind of thing. I don't see any reason.
I would say the demand's definitely there. I mean, yeah, everyone wants a treat, don't they, the weekend? Everyone's sick of cooking all their own foods and their banana bread and their sourdough, and they want something for the weekend, like a proper treat. That's what I think anyway. I've been trying to have something every
Definitely.
weekend. But Saturday, as you said, I'm really struggling to get hold of something. So you say you can still, like, I'm thinking, like, and we've mentioned OPM quite a bit, but they've obviously got the mobile OPM pitched up in Sturchley. So if you don't live within 3 miles of the Digbeth restaurant, you can still order if you're in 3 miles of Sturchley. I think that's such a good idea. Why
But
do you
set
think
an
there's
alarm
not
though,
more?
because they set out so quickly.
Yeah, it's an yeah, I say that. I still haven't been able to get hold of one because
Yeah,
it's
if
always
you've
a
not
bit
got the
far.
order in by 6 o'clock, you're not getting fed.
But why is there something stopping, like, everyone doing that, or more
Yeah,
traders doing that?
yeah. So there's a rule against street trading, and it's not really fit for purpose when there isn't a pandemic on. But at the moment, it's just a non-goer really. The rules basically say that, and Digwood Dining Club had problems with this. A similar version of it way back when we got accused of running a market by the council, illegally running a market by the council, and basically, if you own some land and you put a burger van on it, and someone could walk from the road onto that piece of land and buy a burger off you, then basically the council considers that piece of land that you own a road, and can charge you a license fee and even deny you planning permission for having your burger van there, or whatever the food unit it might be, unless it's 7 meters away and there's a gate preventing the public from getting in. And that's the rule before there was social distancing. So, and if you want that changed, you basically have to put in a planning application. and a licensing application, which costs money and takes 3 months in normal times. But there's no one working in planning because they've all been moved to other positions to help in the COVID fight. So, and there's people in the market teams, the people in the street trading teams. They've all pretty much been moved on and are just covering emails. So, the current way that the system is being interpreted is not helpful. But local authorities do get to interpret it in a way they see fit. So we're hoping for some new advice to come out from government in the next few days, or maybe week or two, that sort of gives greater clarity and it enables councils to let traders get out there and trade. And
Is that still the case if you not like you can't just walk up to the van, like you have to order over delivery or Just Eats or something? Is that still?
Well, I think with the apps are obviously very convenient, but they're quite expensive to use if you're a caterer. So and people don't necessarily know how long this is going to go on for. So investing in one of these apps and all that goes with it for something that might only last 6 to 8 weeks, a lot of people just thinking, I don't want to do that. And 30% on some of these apps is a significant amount of money. It's more profit than the business is making. So I think a lot of people are going to do click and collect. So just get some a cheap sort of till system for their website, and people order what food they want, and they get given a time to come and collect it. And you come up at when you're allotted time slot, grab the food, and off you go. But I think that certainly during COVID, we're recommending that food businesses only use cashless.
And delivery as well. Delivery is by far the safest way to produce and get food to people right now.
It depends how good your delivery driver is, really. I mean, I think some of these guys, I complained about one of them to Tommy from OPM, and he went back to the app and complained to them, and then they called us. So I don't want but yeah, I think that if you do it, you need to have 2 meter separation. So what we're basically suggesting is that you order your food, the food trailer is there, but there's a table, ideally under a gazebo, 2 meters from the trailer or from the catering business, and then the food either gets put on the table for you before you get called up, and then the caterer goes back to the unit, or they come up with some funky hook and pole system so they can whip the food over there onto the table without moving. But yeah, it's for the foreseeable, the safest way to do it is to have that 2 meter separation, and also to try it really hard not to have this situation where you've got people queuing up for half a mile down a street at 2 meter intervals, because I think that the police will get annoyed with that eventually, and it's not necessarily that safe. So I think that finding ways of effectively managing that crowd and the distance between the people in that crowd so that they pick up their food and go straight away. So one of the problems we've had in London is that grocers are allowed to open on the street markets because they're selling groceries, but hot food businesses aren't because they encourage people to loiter. So the big unsaid concern really is that if OPM sets up in Sturtsley and they put some music on and people start queuing up, how far are you away from a party? And if that starts happening everywhere, then the lockdown falls apart. So I think that they're kind of thinking in those kinds of terms. We don't want to encourage people onto the streets. So we're trying to push it that if people are coming onto the streets, it's a collection job, not a wait in the road and not a party.
Ultimately, what it comes down to is if you're planning on trading, get the permission, of whoever it may be that you need to seek the permission of. Get the permission before you start doing it. So with OPM, they've got the permission of gosh, I've forgotten the name of the pub. What's the name of the pub? Yeah, British Oak. They've got the permission to be there, and if you're trading, the difference is, like Mark said, public-private land. You need the permission of where you're going to be trading before you do it. So, our advice is definitely get that, because otherwise you'll probably find yourself in, a spot of bother.
I was chatting to Flying Cows on Friday, Dan from Flying Cows, And I basically spent half an hour trying to get him to pull up his van outside my house. There's a bit of spare land there. Like, I think you should find some spare land and then like nominate your favourite trader and try and get them to come and open up near your house.
Can I just say at this point, Liam, sorry to interrupt, Mark, but literally, Mark, what was it, about, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago, Mark didn't actually even like burgers.
No.
All of a sudden now, you've changed.
No, it was longer ago than that. It was like, because I hadn't eaten a burger in 3 years, and then I had a burger at the first ever British Street Food Awards off Yanni, and it absolutely blew my mind. And
Yanni is meat liquor, by the way, for anyone.
Yeah, and we've been there for like 3 days, hadn't we? Because we were doing the health and safety and sort of the trader management just to help out the guy that ran the awards, who's kind of setting up street food at the time. I just kind of seen these queues. The only guy had any queues. No one went to this event. It was a massive washout. And so we ended up eating loads of great food, but no one else was there really. But the only place that was busy all weekend was this burger guy. And you could just hear people coming away going, "This is amazing, it's amazing." I was like, well, I get diver caught scallops with a bit of celeriac mash over there. Why would I go get a burger? And I had this Yanni burger, and it just, I'm pretty much eating them every day now.
I think a Yanni burger was Yanni burger was life changing for most people, wasn't it? It really was.
Yeah.
Yanni was also, I don't know if we should get too much into this, but Yanni was also like almost the beginning of street food, certainly.
He was
started the whole cause of guerrilla dining. He was the guy that sort of started, in terms of what it meant, in terms of
he broke the law.
Yeah, building a profile on social media and using his Twitter followers to basically approach pubs and just say, look, I've got nowhere to trade. I can't get a street trading license. Let me trade in your car park. If you do, then I'll bring 200 guaranteed people to your pub today that will drink your booze. And the pub was like, all right then. Yeah. And then before you know it, well, you had meat liquor. So,
but there was like some old law that had kind of no one had remembered to get rid of that enabled him to trade initially. So like he was allowed to. It was I think peddlers used it, and I think like travelers use it for some things. We used to, and then like people just stopped using it. But basically, when he set up, he went into a car park in Peckham, and he just moved the parking space once every 28 days. Because if you moved within 28 days, I think that's why the travellers used it. If you moved within 28 days, you didn't have to get licenses and do various other things. You could just set up and sell some food and move on. And he just completely took the mickey out of that rule and just moved 1 metre a month for like 12 months. So the council were just like, we're going to get rid of this law. And then he had to go. Yeah, he had to go into all the pubs. But that was the beginning of street food really for us. Mostly because it was like reimagining something that we already knew. And I think that when street food first hit London and hit Birmingham, it was all about you deconstructed something you loved when you were kids because you didn't know better, and it's just full of flavour, but it's actually a McDonald's burger or whatever. And then you get older and go, that's actually just not very good. And then someone just takes that apart and puts it back together with, thinking about every component of it and how to produce it and how to cook it and all of that thrown in, and just creates this perfect burger. And it was just like, wow, I didn't think this food could be this good. And then they had people doing it with hot dogs and with pizza, and like the first wave of street food was just people doing way better versions of stuff that you loved when you were a kid.
And using suppliers, the same suppliers that like top restaurants were using. So
yeah, exactly. And they really knew their stuff. The best street food traders now, work with the best suppliers, and some of them are some really fantastic and innovative chefs.
for me, a lot of it came like 2008. Like when the financial crash, and then like a lot of people just lost their jobs and decided to try and pursue something else. Or it seemed to, in my mind, that's what it seemed when it really seemed to come about. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I used to live in London back then, and we used to call it like recession chic. It was all about we don't know what our future holds, and the corporations don't know what they're doing, and everything's screwed. So let's make our own fund that's affordable and just covers the stuff that we want to do. And so, it was food parties in warehouses, just call it meat raves or session chic, or, it was just basically block
Yeah.
parties and warehouse parties, but with really good food.
Yeah, that's how I remember it as well. It's funny.
And it was awesome, and that vibe that you used to get when you first went to, if you ever a rave or when it, that when you first start getting into a new scene, it was like, wow, this is really, interesting and innovative, and I just, these people just aren't doing things the way they're meant to do them. They're doing things their own way, and it's working for them. And it was pretty inspirational. It was good fun to be part of, definitely.
That's a nice little street food story for us there. I probably want to just, like, before we finish the podcast, I want to get onto some of the positives that we spoke about before we started recording. Obviously, there's a lot of negativity with COVID-19 and what's going on, and obviously it's awful. But there is a few people doing some great things still. I mean, there's a street food traders seem to be doing a lot with the Feed the NHS, or the name of the NHS charity now has just escaped me, and I didn't write it down. But
Meals for the NHS.
that's it. Meals for the NHS. Like, street food seems to be massive into that. Like, do you want to share a few of the kind of success stories and people doing good things?
We're now on the procurement list for the NHS for the COVID crisis. So that's been one of our main lobbying aims, because we've thought, well, if every food business is shutting, if every bricks and mortar food business is shutting, and all the canteens are shutting, and we've basically got an industry with 10,000 mobile catering businesses ready to be anywhere, and all of a sudden they got nothing to do this summer. So we proposed pretty much straight away that the industry get taken on in some sense to provide support for the NHS and other key workers that are out there, trying to either fight COVID or keep people alive and safe and fed. So we've got some guys up in Derby who just started. They're doing 7 or 10 days on, 10 days off outside of Derby Royal Infirmary, and they're doing, I think it's 800 meals a day for NHS staff. But we're hoping that that we're going to get picked for a few gigs from these hospitals. Now that
That was. Do you want to give them a name drop? Just might as well drop their name as they're doing something really good. Is it?
Disco Fries, just absolutely smashed it out of the park. And the way he changed it up, because he phoned up Jack from Do With Dining Club and was like, the self-employed stuff just come out. I've just quit my job. My missus has just quit her job. We're basically not going to be earning any money, and we've gone from a whole summer worth of profitable bookings to we don't know what our future holds, and it looks bleak. And then chat to Jack, chat to people, chat to us, and then I was going to chat to him on Monday. After that was a Thursday, so I chat to him on the Monday, and then Tuesday I get a phone call from Jack and goes, "Yeah, he's changed up his food. He's now doing like really healthy, nutritious food. They've got a gig for 4 of them outside a hospital, and they're cracking on with it. And that's it's just amazing to see the hustle and the determination, and brushing himself off and getting up, and his wife, sorry, Mrs. And just cracking on and just making it happen for themselves. I think that we're going to see that more and more and more, and we're hoping to facilitate that as well, because our guys love to cook, and a lot of them are very good cooks. And in the middle of a crisis, we need comforting food, and we need healthy food. And I think street food is really well placed to be able to support that, and even like mass catering through event caterers, things like that. But
I'll name drop some for you, Liam. Just in line with what Mark said, obviously we've got the guys that are out there doing really great work for the NHS, which is really great. So either in conjunction with the meals for the NHS, or they maybe even sorted it out for themselves. So absolutely kudos to them, hats off. But you've also got the guys as well, like the Dick Smokehouse. You've got Low and Slow, obviously OPM that we've mentioned, Beef on the Block, and these are just names off the top of my head, but just from following obviously
they're doing some crazy stuff doing delivery.
Just following their profiles on social media, these guys are all pivoting as well, which is really, really great to see. Like, these guys are just using their literally taking the initiative and just looking at what can we do, what options are available to us. So whether or not that is delivering hot food, whether or not it's delivering ready meals, whether or not it's doing DIY kits, we are seeing the best of what we're seeing really right now, which is really exciting for me, is the adaptability of mobile catering. And it's not just street food; it's it's your event caterers, it's even your sort of pitch trade as well, your classic sort of burger guys. Everyone is stepping up and adapting and adapting to this new world that we are now living in, and saying, right, I'm not just going to chuck in the towel. That's not an option. So what can we do? And they've got their following on social media. They've got their regular buyers, and they're ultimately, I suppose, in some ways, fans, supporters. And they're saying, right, well, they're almost putting it out there and saying, do you want us to continue trading? Everyone's putting a hand up and saying, damn, yes, damn, too right we do. And they're saying, okay, well, how about we do this? I like a Dick Smokehouse. Dick Smokehouse dropped off last week, and it's just such good value for 25 quid. And it's from my point of view, it's really, really just exciting and encouraging to see that. In line with that, we'll support those traders in whatever that means and whatever they need. So, we've done a COVID compliancy pack, which is all the latest sort of documentation that they need in order to, comply with all the regulations in terms of delivery and this, that, and the other. But I mean, just to end it on a positive, I think that is the one thing about our industry, about our sector, about mobile catering, is that these guys have the ability. This is what they've done for the last 20 years. If you ask a restaurant to go and set up in a field tomorrow, they just wouldn't have a clue, unless they've been in this game before. Whereas mobile caterers, that's what they do. They're able to adapt to your menu. They're able to, turn up quickly. They're able to literally cook without any access to energy. They're self-sufficient. And this is the adaptability, the versatility, and the beauty of what I think mobile catering in the sector is. It's just being able to do what's required when it's required and get it done. And it's really great to see how many traders are adapting. And what we're noticing is that more and more, there was at first when this all started to kick off, there was a real obvious reluctance or hesitation from a lot of people as to what they should or shouldn't be doing. And that's potentially like from a legal point of view, from a moral point of view. And also because they're not sure whether or not the public or their regular customers wanted it, and that is now starting to change. That tide, that we're seeing the pendulum sort of swing on that, and like you said, Liam, like you were sort of wondering, like you said, about people wanting a weekend to have a treat. Like Mark said, in terms of there is, because the restaurants are closed, there is a reduced offering on some of the platforms now, and I just see traders, not just street food traders, caterers being able to fill that market and be able to do it well and safely, and I think that's blooming great.
I think the economy's gone through a massive shock, and a lot of institutions and things that we thought would always be there are like falling away. And I think kind of dream big. At the moment there's a guy driving around East London with an ice cream van selling gourmet cheese and great wine. It's
Amazing.
an improvement on the economy before. If we could have someone just driving around selling you beautiful things. So I think with every tragedy like this, there will be, there'll be good
ingenuity, almost,
innovation,
isn't it? It's just like literally,
yeah. So I think that we're in a good position because our guys are adaptable by nature. So I think that if they're bold enough, they can, people can develop can put some ideas out there that can turn into something really amazing. And they'd be maybe foolish to assume that things would just go back to how they were before. And if they just hold tight, and I think that's why I'm more worried about restaurants than I am about mobile caterers. I think that they will adapt, but restaurants might struggle if society changes in how they want to consume food or entertain themselves. So, but yeah, keeping it positive, I think that we're going to keep trading and we're going to keep developing and selling amazing food. And the longer this goes on, the more people will find innovative and amazing ways of doing that. And also, even your favourite restaurants that are shut, keep in contact with them, because all of them now are kind of doing grocery services, and the food that they buy that's sold to you on a plate is far higher quality than when you're getting from a supermarket. So, I've got a delivery from Little Blackwood. I'm going to be eating restaurant quality food tonight. Admittedly, not cooked in restaurant quality, but certainly the produce. And I think that go out there and support these small businesses. Don't queue up to get inside supermarkets. Call your local restaurant, order your favourite wine and your favourite raw ingredients. Get them delivered, and get hold of your local street food traders and see if they'll if you get hold of something hot as well.
You can even get blooming cocktails delivered now. Do you know what I mean? There's
I think that's starting this weekend, isn't it?
very, very good cocktail bar in Sturchley that is starting selling. I think it was like 50 centilitres a litre. A litre of Negroni.
I bought that on the night they closed.
I'm not surprised. I think just in terms of what you're saying, Liam, with fear of repeating myself here, but I think the adaptability of mobile catering is I think there's a lot of people there just wondering what they can do, and I think you just have to sort of look at what those around you are doing, and sort of it's easy. Do you know what? It's easy for us to say this in cities. It's much more difficult when you're in more rural areas, and where the challenges that that poses. I mean, if you take my brother, for instance, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, and I realise you want to finish, Liam, so apologies. But
no, it's fine. Carry on.
Where my brother lives in Redditch, I mean, look at the situation in Redditch right now. I mean, in most of the restaurants have closed. I think there's only one or two traders operating, which are takeaways. So if you want to get a takeaway in Redditch right now, from what I understand, what he's telling me, it's something like a 2 to 3 hour wait for like the only Indian takeaway. And I think that's where street food traders can really step in. You know what I mean? Like street food traders, if they're just able to set up somewhere on a car park, put a good street food trader there and allow them to do a delivery model. Why can't they?
You're not just thinking what's happened to the world if you've got to wait 2 to 3 hours for a curry in the Midlands. You know what I mean? That's should almost be illegal in this part of the world. It's a birthright to be able to get curry in the Midlands. It's not. That's why we need more mobile catering out there.
I agree. Definitely agree. Was that a good place to finish?
No, I think that's pretty cool. If you're happy with all of that,
it seems to me good to finish on that point.
Yeah, it's nice to finish on a positive, I think.